All right, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Space Weather. We've captured the initial strike of the coronal mass ejection. We're showing you some imagery from the SDO here to start things out. The 94 angstroms SDO past day of activity featured some C-class flares. We'll get to that in a moment, but the real story here is the geomagnetic storm that is a brewing. We've got geomagnetic unrest at the moment. We saw a massive fluctuation in the magnetic field preceding the arrival of the large cloud of solar plasma. And here's the arrival moment on the Geospace Magnetosphere movie. This will show 4 hours of data. And right there is the huge magnetic strike causing huge changes in the magnetic pressure around planet Earth. The scale you're looking at there is nanopascals. So that's magnetohydrodynamic pressure. And we saw the density wave show up, an increase in the solar wind speed, but most importantly, a huge swing in the magnetic field. It's also gone into negative territory. We can expect an extended period of geomagnetic unrest and geomagnetic storm conditions. We're hoping not to see any things like power outages. I would expect to see a KP6. Most first world nations shouldn't expect to see any power outages. Here's the arrival at the ground level, the ground Geospace Magnetosphere movie. Ground magnetic perturbations, changes to Earth's B field. And there's a huge sudden series of changes to Earth's B field as that magnetic field arrives. Huge clouds of plasma blasting through space have their own magnetic fields, and when they show up and interact with Earth's, it causes swings like this. Those bright red areas, those are the most likely areas to see power line induction, also Aurora Borealis, Australis, if it's in the southern hemisphere. We show it daily. And today we just happened to capture a big strike. So this is the last 4 hours, courtesy University of Michigan. If you want to read more about the Geospace Magnetosphere movies, head to the Geospace Magnetosphere movies page and click on details. It'll tell you about the space weather modeling framework. There are links. You can find out where the data comes from. Here's the Aurora Forecast. And again, I'm expecting about 12 hours of geomagnetic storm and unrest conditions, a KP6 coming. And here we should see an increase in the likelihood of aurorae there. And you can find all kinds of other resources at the Space Weather Prediction Center. Here right at the end we can expect to see a spike. And there's that magnetic spike showing up. Huge change in the GOES magnetometer here, a divergence. The GOES 16 getting a higher reading, while the GOES 17 gets a lower reading. And members of the Smash team would have gotten information about this. By the way, we put up another video earlier. We already streamed one to twitch.tv/smashomash, so perhaps join us over there. I'll bet you're able to go to a website if you're viewing this video. Twitch.tv/smashomash. Install the mobile app. It'll let you know when we go live. Also, make sure you follow us on Twitter. You don't have a Twitter account? Get one. It's a great place to exchange information with all kinds of other experts in the realm of space weather, Earth weather, etc. And lots more stuff, just random stuff, posted constantly on Twitter at Smashomash. Now, I would note that we covered this coronal mass ejection quite early. Thanks to the Smash team for your support. And don't forget to press like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. We went live when we realized that there was an Earth-directed coronal mass ejection. Here's a little clip. So you can see the majority of the ejecta here is to the north and west of planet Earth. Huge coronal mass ejection there, and that's what's arriving at Earth now, folks. So that's the coronal mass ejection that's coming toward Earth and striking the geospace at the moment. We'll get into more on that. First, some additional information about what's going on with the heliospheric current sheet. Earth remains in a South Pole current sheet. There it is in red. Pretty unremarkable at the moment. Let's move on to the line of sight field plot. Sunspot activity has remained largely stable over the past 24 hours. Again, the story is the geomagnetic storm conditions. Now, of course, NASA is a little bit better at predicting this perhaps than NOAA, maybe because there's more of a need-to-know basis, as people in spacecraft have to get into radiation-proof rooms, or at least radiation-shielded rooms. Here's a line-of-sight coronal hole plot. We've got a bunch of South rather diffuse south pole coronal holes there. Some north ones rotating in as well. Here's the view in 193 angstrom from the SDO. And these are actually south pole coronal holes, folks, so you're seeing the solar polar field reversal process happen. That's why we show it daily on the channel. It's pretty exciting. It's solar cycle 25. Now moving into sunspots. To see, again, rather stable sunspots here. The likelihood of major flares still quite high. We could see additional coronal mass ejections headed toward Earth, so make sure you stay tuned into the channel. Set up that notification bell to notify you when we upload a video. Sunspot 2965, beta gamma class. We've got some setting regions down here that are capable of producing large flares. The rest of these sunspot groups, not quite so remarkable. 2965 and 2960. And these setting areas are certainly capable of a little bit more than just minor solar flares. So here is the 1700 angstroms view from the SDO. It's the past 24 hours, and again, we can expect to see quite stable sunspot groups here at the moment. So the sun looking calm and the Earth looking perturbed, especially magnetically speaking. So here's the X-ray profile over the past 3 days, and we saw one large C-class flare. The peak flux there was about 320 this morning. And I would note also that the background level is starting to approach C-class levels. In other words, the sun is about to be putting out a C-class X-ray output all the time, without any flares required. We do see a mild proton signal here, which is now subsiding. No big deal there. No relativistic particles from any of those recent C-class flares. And let's go to the real-time solar wind to show you what's going on with this sudden magnetic spike. So check it out. A huge shift there in the magnetic field, and now we're seeing a second pulse coming in here with a very strong negative BZ. So we can expect to go well into geomagnetic storm conditions here. We didn't get quite as high of a density spike as was forecasted. We were expecting more like 70 protons per cubic centimeter. We got to about 40. But check it out, the field is getting even stronger here. Current BT-BZ is 20 for the total field. That's the BT. And -9, that's the vertical component there of the coordinate system. So yes, strong negative BZ there and a strong field. So we can expect, I'm expecting a KP6. We did see the solar wind speed subside here a bit. It made it all the way up to nearly 600 kilometers per second. A little bit over 600 it looks like. Certainly to 583. Current conditions are 439 kilometers a second for the speed. Solar wind density still quite elevated here. 25.78 protons per cubic centimeter. So again, that was the initial spike that we saw, this magnetic spike accompanied by a change in the plasma temperature, increase in the plasma speed and density, and a huge shift in the BT-BZ. Again, you can find all kinds of other resources at the Space Weather Prediction Center. One of the things you'll find is the Geoelectric induction models, and this relies on conductivity of the planet. So since some of these areas don't have all the data, those are currently in the process of being checked out. But this is where you can expect to see power grid induction and so on. Remember, folks, first world nations' power grids are pretty good at shutting themselves down before too much induction causes transformers to be destroyed. And you can find other similar models if you scroll down to the bottom of the Space Weather Prediction Center. All kinds of data available down there on all kinds of different things. Also explanations of things you can find there, such as this one here, the electric power transmission explanation. Did you know that we had power breakdowns in March of 1989 when transformers were lost in Canada? What about a blackout in Sweden during the October 2003 storm? So if you want to read more about that, again, head to the Space Weather Prediction Center. So we've gone into geomagnetic unrest conditions. I would expect us to get all the way up here to a KP6. And we're expecting these geomagnetic unrest and storm conditions to last about 12 hours. If you enjoy the content, thanks for tuning in. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. Consider pressing like, subscribe, press share, press the notification bell, tell your friends and foes about us. And consider becoming a member of the Smash team if you want to support the content, prefer to see it continue to exist and remain publicly visible. Support us Patreon style, except at our own website, smashomash.com/Smash team. We've got all kinds of links on the homepage as well as links to our merch. You could even still support us on Patreon if you like. Thanks to everybody who has supported the channel throughout the years. Here's a forecast for the solar system real quick. It's a 1-week solar system heavenly body forecast. There's where things will be in a week as Mercury speeds around to the opposite side. If you're up before dawn, you may see a great horizon with Venus and Mars and Saturn and Mercury. I think that's Mercury. And Jupiter all rising ahead of the sun. So if you've got a low horizon and clear skies, it's a great planetary morning environment at the moment. Lots of planets up there. And we'll take a look at some coronagraphs. We've got some more coronal mass ejecta headed toward Earth. It's a little more stealthy, not quite as spectacular as the last one. You can see here some ejecta on the Stereo A coronagraph. Stereo A is located here at Lagrangian point 5. And the Soho-Lasco C3, which puts the Earth behind you. From Stereo A, Earth would be off to your right. Also, we've got Jupiter right here. So a little bit more ejecta. This is earthly directed as well. It's just not quite as spectacular. You can see ejecta solar plasma on all sides of the coronagraph there, an indication that there's some more headed this way. We can expect to see that in about 3 days. It's sort of a general CME that happened there. Anyway, thanks for tuning into the video. Make sure you check out our bonus features. There'll be a live Twitch stream. We may put that on YouTube. We haven't decided yet. Thanks for tuning in. May that solar wind be at your back. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news.